guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I am joined today by Adriana King. Adriana is a travel agent and actually just, recently made the switch. So we're gonna ask her questions about her journey. And then in chatting beforehand, she gave me such good information about some of the things that she's done to build her business, make her business a little bit like the transaction simpler. And so we're going to dive into it. Adriana, welcome, welcome, welcome. Could you just take a couple minutes and maybe introduce yourself and let us know where you're at in business right now?
Well, thank you so much, Lori, for having me. It's really, really an honor, and I've been, following you along for so long, and really met you like before you started this journey of being a coach, and just seeing you grow so much, and it's just been really just a thrill to watch you for sure.
Thank you. I know I remember us chatting on the phone for like hours way
Yeah,
back in
I
the day.
know, I know. Yeah. So I've been a travel advisor for a couple of years now. Before that, I was actually a home stager,
Mhm.
and so I packed that up and decided to do travel. I used to use my own travel advisor, and I remember asking one time, like, do they make any money? Do you guys make any money? And she's like, no, we really don't make any money. So that kind of like deviated me from not looking into travel a little bit. And then I had another travel advisor, and honestly, I mean, she was sweet and all, but she did not do a good job. She'd be like going, no, I don't do transfers. I don't do that. I don't do that. So I had to go and do my own. And I was like, oh my God. So I just and we started traveling a lot, and I started, initially I thought I was just going to be doing sandals because I love the resort so much. I've been to almost all of the sandals. I had people coming to me and asking me about it. But then just I decided to take to become a license, because in Ontario you have to become a licensed travel advisor, get my license, and just thought, I'll just go and see. And then it just started evolving, and I've been doing it now for just now full time. And it's just been such a blessing. I enjoy it so much. And it's just so me. Um, Initially, I just started getting everybody who came to me, so to speak. And then you start learning a little bit more, going to events, you start meeting other travel advisors, taking some courses, you get a little bit of coaching as well. And so I decided that I was going to be a little bit pickier, so to speak, about, who I was going to take as a client, and understanding that, what I do, it's not just about me taking care of that client, but just of course, but it has to be a client that's aligned with me as well.
Mhm. That makes a lot
And
of sense, right? Like you want there to be it's give and take, right? Like you are going to do a lot for them and you want it to be a really good fit from a personality standpoint, I'm sure.
100%, yeah. Some clients just are a little bit more like, hey, I found this better deal. And
Mhm.
it's like, I don't work with deals. I say this right up front. I don't do deals.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find the best fit for you, what you told me that
Mhm.
you wanted.
I love
So
that. I think like you kind of have to, and I think this is not just as being a travel agent, anything, you got to kind of figure out like what are my boundaries, what are my parameters, what makes me me, like what do I bring to the table to this business?
absolutely taking control of the conversation 100%.
Yeah. And that
Um,
kind of makes like that kind of like elevates your status and your expertise.
100%, yeah. And I think we talked about this too, is having initially I had people coming to me all the time and like, hey, can you send me a price on a cruise or something like that? And I'd
Hmm.
be like, okay, no problem. Give me your email, I'll send it over. I don't do
Hmm.
that anymore. I
You kind of
started,
felt like you were, well, really, you were just open for anyone and everyone in the beginning. And
yes,
I would imagine that a lot of time was lost with that kind of strategy.
100%. And at the same time, you know what? There was a lot of learning that came through that
Right. You
as
wouldn't
well.
change it, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
you you wouldn't do it forever.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand that we, as travel, we call travel advisors just because we now don't just book, we advise
Mhm.
people. But we as travel advisors, we don't actually really get paid until the client travels. So having a potential client that comes and asks you for a price and they just go book on their own, it's just like,
Mhm.
what? Are you kidding me? You know?
Yeah, I would
So,
imagine though that a lot of people are not only coming to you, but they're also doing their own research. So how have you kind of figured out how to filter through who's actually serious about using you versus, you know, who's just like kind of looking to see if they can get a deal?
well, like if, for example, now if I do get somebody on a DM or somebody who call, I do have a Google profile as well, and I'll talk a little bit about my business towards the end. So I'll get a lot of Google calls. I get DMs, and a client says, "Oh, can you price me out this for me?" I immediately just thank you so much for getting a hold of me. I really appreciate it. Here, I'm going to send you the calendar link, and I would like for you to book a consultation. There's no charge for the consultation, and it takes about 30 minutes, and I'm just going to ask you some, appropriate questions on what kind of vacation do you want? What's your travel style?
Mhm.
Um, and then I can kind of get a feel of what their budget is like because, if they're shopping around, I immediately say like, I don't do that.
Mhm.
I don't do Airbnbs. I don't, there's certain things I just don't work with because I know that I also need to have a good relationship with my suppliers as well. So I filter them by having that. And, if somebody does actually go and book a time with me on my calendar, then, having it on a Zoom, I think it's ideal because I get to see them face to face.
Mhm.
And I can, if I say at the end, and if I say, wow, this is an average what's going to cost you. And if they're like, oh,
You can watch their facial expression.
yeah, exactly. So, and I immediately know. I also have a minimum spend
Mhm.
on certain, like I don't do with anybody who comes in with me for a $2,500 budget. It's just I know that they're going to hate it. I know that they're not going to have a good time.
Right. So it's not so much that you just don't want to work in those areas. You just know like what you want to deliver for your clients.
And it's also knowing what kind of aligned client is right for you.
Hmm.
Totally okay. And what I started doing too, Lori, is started to say no to, even if I'm not busy,
Saying
100%.
no is hard in business. Like I know I even struggle with this as well. And this is something that I'm working on personally too, because I'm a people pleaser and I don't want to turn down money. So
Of
I'm often
course.
bending over backwards trying to make it work for someone, but those are always the clients, I don't want to say that go bad, but I think is
Yeah,
what exactly what you're trying to say is it's more work than it's necessarily worth at the end of the day.
100%. And sometimes you just get that feel in your gut that this
Mhm.
is not something that I want to do. It's not going to bring me joy doing this.
Mhm.
There's certain things when a client comes to me and they ask me, and it just like, I'm like light up, like,
Yes,
like
yes.
Christmas
And
tree.
and I always say that that's when I'm most efficient too, is when I'm super excited about something that I'm working on because it like feels like it just flies.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and you just kind of get to know that person too, if they're going to be those kinds of clients, right?
How do
That
you, like, how do you, okay, you're not busy and someone comes to you and you're like, well, I could do this, but like, how do you hold tight to those boundaries? And
you
I'm
know,
honestly asking.
to me, I do read quite a bit, as you read as well, right? And it comes
Mhm.
down to the law of attraction, and you're working with the law of the vacuum, where, you've got to create room for the things that you want. And if somebody comes to you and and you're not busy and you don't want to be turning down income, but at the same time, that that is not something you want to do, you get busy and then you just fill out that space from actually a potential client that could come to you. So, and I found that once I started to say no, immediately I'll get somebody that comes in who is that perfect aligned client for me.
Yeah, so it's almost like you've made space for the right kind of person to go. And I do believe in all those like universal energetics and all of those elements. Like I believe very strongly in them.
Yeah. So that to me was, but you gotta, with anything in business, I think you gotta really, sit down and just figure out who your aligned client is, whether you're selling, I've listened to quite a few of your podcasts, and some of the ladies are really, really sharp, whether
Mm-hmm.
you're selling skincare or jewelry or, you know, um, anything, some kind of service, you know who your aligned clients are,
Hmm.
how much,
It
what
will
they're
bite you in
considering.
the ass every single time you take on someone and you know have that feeling in the back of your head.
100%. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will
So,
live to regret it.
the other thing that I do is once I do have a Zoom, or sometimes, a client that doesn't want to get on a Zoom,
Mhm.
but they'll get on the phone with you, right? I immediately send an email based on what you said. This is da da da, and explain everything. And I do charge a service fee, and
Mhm.
it's not. I don't call it a service fee. It's a research and concierge fee
Okay. So
because.
step one really is the call. Step
Mhm.
two is almost the proposal to do the research and put the package together.
Absolutely. And
Okay, I
then,
like that.
should you
Because there's a
hire
lot of work, I imagine, that goes into that step before you're ever going to be paid for your work.
apps? Well, and here's the thing, like, I mean, before I didn't charge a fee at all, right?
Hmm.
But I mean, there's a lot of work when you're doing your research,
Hmm.
Oh, this is sometimes it's a group, the other thing too, I found that working with groups is, really generates a lot more revenue, right?
Right.
It's a group of people, and I'm not going to be just quoting somebody for nothing, right?
Hmm.
So when I do
Yeah,
actually
that
send
makes sense.
a quote, for that group, then normally they're invested in it, right?
Hmm.
So after they
Absolutely.
pay my research fee. So they're
Yeah.
not they're not just going to go this and, oh, I found this deal now.
Right, because they've actually invested in that. I do find, and I'm sure because you didn't charge that fee in the beginning, I find this too. Like when I was starting from scratch in my kind of social media business or email marketing, whatever you want to call it, I was willing to take on a little bit more, right? But then as you get busier, your time, the value you put on your time is so different. And so you kind of build that confidence to say, no, no, like this is my fee for this next step. Because if you're not serious enough to pay that fee, then I know you're not the kind of client that I want to work with. And I'll go back to doing a really good job over here until the next opportunity comes along.
100%, yeah. And just having that confidence that, somebody doesn't want to pay your fee, then that's okay. They're not your aligned client,
Mhm.
and somebody always comes along. But, and I found that, by doing that, I've eliminated a lot of tire kickers. I no longer get those tire kickers anymore, that are wasting my time and, in a way, kind of wasting their time too.
Oh,
Um,
totally.
yeah, 100%. So the people that are working with me are aligned clients.
I love
And
that.
I'm just so happy about that now because, even a little over a year ago, that was not the case.
Well, and you deserve to enjoy the work that you're doing, right? We all deserve to enjoy the work that we're doing. And when we're service-based, we deserve to enjoy the people that we're working with.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, so when we were chatting about some of the strategies that have worked for you this year, you mentioned two that really, really stood out to me. One was newsletters, and I want you to dive into that. And it was music to my ears because I swear I'm like trying to force feed so many people to understand the power of email. And number two was networking group, which is also something that I've been preaching because I deeply believe in the transition to getting back in person with people and how how we're all really like needing that in our lives and our businesses. So talk first to me about the newsletters you've been sending out.
So the newsletter thing, I picked up from like reading a book basically, that were talking about the power of newsletters. And you know what? And it happened to me once that my Facebook completely got shut down, like, got hacked. I had to create a new one. Like, there's still people that were in my group, my Facebook, that I'm not friends with them anymore because,
Hmm.
like so I
Lost
had to start
contact.
from scratch. So that resonated with me a lot because when you get people's email address, you have that database, you own that.
Hmm.
You that 100% own that. And I also learned that if you're going to do that, and I think that so many people, they're like, oh, I do mine once a month. It just gets by the
Oh, I
time.
love that you're going to say this. I love that you're going to say this. Say it loud and clear.
So, and I found too, like, because I did receive newsletter, from different vendors and things like that. Sometimes they're just too much on your face. And
Hmm.
sometimes you're like, did I ever subscribe to this? No, I did not, so you immediately unsubscribe because you
Hmm.
don't hear from them enough.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that
You
to
have
me,
forgotten about them, right? Like, I think people get so caught up in, well, what do I put? Like, sometimes it's just about dropping into somebody's email box and them seeing your name and being reminded of your existence.
100%, yeah. So I mean, I'm still in a learning process, but I've been doing it consistently. Have not missed a week, even Christmas, New Year's. My newsletter went out, even though it was just to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I
Which
wish,
sometimes are even more powerful than anything else because it's human connection.
hmm So I'm still learning as I go, so to speak, but I try. So I do it weekly. I do it on Thursdays. It goes out on Thursdays at exactly 2 p.m. Eastern. I reschedule them. If I'm traveling, my newsletter still goes no matter what, and I just write them. And I thought, oh my God, how am I going to find all this content? But sometimes, just an idea just pop and you're like, okay, I'm going to talk about this. And I think that, so I've gotten quite a bit of business out of that. Like at first it was crickets.
Of course. And
100%.
sometimes it feels like crickets to us. We don't realize that like things are growing and building momentum
Yeah,
behind the scenes. The same with social media, really. Like we all think that we're totally ignored until things start flooding in.
100%, yeah. So, but I started doing it. I was like, okay, no matter what, I'm going to commit this for a year,
Hmm.
even if I don't get anything. But I would say probably after around the 6 month mark, that's when it started to just, people started, replying back.
People need to trust that you're serious about what you're doing, right? And that you're going to continue to show up. And also, I would imagine with like the travel industry, sometimes like, the timing has to be there. Not everybody's traveling every
Absolutely.
day.
Absolutely. And I do a lot of not a lot. I mean, I do a couple of vendor shows a year and I get a lot of emails that way, right? And sometimes, like somebody just they don't even remember they met you if
Hmm.
you're just going to pick up the phone and call. But if you're just, if they're receiving your newsletter, all of a sudden they reach out, hey, like I mean, for example, I just did a river cruise booking for a client and she met me at one of the vendors event that I did and she's been sitting on the sideline for like probably 4 or 5 months. She just reached out and said, "Hey, I wrote about river cruising," and she replied to me and just said, "You know what? We've been thinking about doing that. So could you, give us some ideas? I'd love to hear more about what you have to say." And so immediately I sent her my calendar link and she booked an appointment and we went through it wasn't booked right away, but I've gotten so many business that way. And it's
Hmm.
just because I'm consistent. So that to me, it's been totally invaluable. I mean, I will preach this until the day that I die now to anybody. But people are not consistent enough.
Mhm.
And my newsletter sucked in the beginning, and I still don't think that they're the greatest. But
It
at
doesn't need
least,
to be perfect, though. I think that's the point, right?
but I'm very consistent, and I've
Mhm.
been very consistent, and it has paid off, and it
And I
continues
would
to pay.
imagine that the email you sent today was probably better than the very first one that you sent, or even the one that you sent 6 months ago.
Oh, good God. Yeah. Yeah,
It's
there's
hard
no
to get better at
comparison.
something that you're not at, like it's hard to get better at something that you're not doing consistently. Like if you
Yes.
were learning to run and you ran once a month or you ran once every couple months, like how long would it take you to actually learn to run?
Yes. Yeah. But just finding that time to just really dive, to focus on that no matter what, So on the weekends, that is what I do. I basically, sit down for, sometimes, about an hour or so and just jot down some ideas, immediately write something, and then started putting together, for the next week.
Okay.
So I just kind of fits in my schedule that way. And it gets a little much when I have to travel. And sometimes I'm gone for 2 weeks like I just was. And I
The
had,
nice thing about email is that you just do it ahead of time and you schedule it.
yeah,
Like
absolutely.
it's
Sometimes it
so
can be,
easily batched if you wanted to.
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about the networking group that you started. It's in person and local, correct?
Yes. It's in person, it's local, and we're still growing. It's only been we only had a few meetings up to now. So but I'm consistently promoting on different groups and things like that. So we meet once a month. We meet for either lunch or a happy hour, and whoever comes. And I've looked at into networking groups. There's one of them that I was looking at was the BNI, which I know you very familiar with, and the
Yeah.
cost to join that, and the
I
fact is
was
that,
part of it a million years ago when I was in wedding planning, and even then it was very expensive.
yeah, and then also
Application only.
you have to. So I like that they are one per industry, but also you have to show up to every single meeting. And if you can't, you have to
Mhm.
send somebody. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, are you kidding me? Like, I
I
can't
know.
do that.
It's a challenging one to commit to because people's lives are very, very busy. And, at the end of the day, the truth is like, let's say another travel agent ended up at your networking event. Maybe that's not the worst thing in the world because maybe the both of you specialize in different things and actually could send clients to one another.
Yeah, 100%. Like, there's certain things I won't touch. Like, I know Cuba is closed right now, but I've never sold Cuba, and I won't sell Cuba, just
Mhm.
because it's inconsistent with the kind of value that I put
Mhm.
on the table, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. So have you found that you're starting to build relationships with these women that you've been meeting?
It's not just women,
Oh,
there are
men too.
men, and so it's for both sexes, but it's no 100%. You run into people that you haven't seen in a while and things like that too.
Mhm.
So I really believe, like, if anything, like I'm collecting business cards, and I'm asking them if it's okay to add them to my newsletter.
Mhm.
And
And
again,
sometimes some good conversations, because I go to one monthly as well, that's kind of similar to that. We just do dinner. And honestly, some of the best conversations about business have come out of those dinners. Like I learn so much.
yeah, absolutely. And you meet a lot of, people that are solo in business too, right?
And
That
a
are,
lot of incredible people. And being an entrepreneur can be lonely sometimes. I work a lot from my desk in my quiet office, which I love, but you don't get that connection the same way.
yeah. So getting out of the house, like today, for example, this one is a little farther from me. It's in Barrie. So I live in Collingwood. So it's
Mhm.
about 50 minutes away. And so I have another network. It's for women only. And so I always like attending that one. And there's some really a group, good group of ladies over there.
I love it. It's like you look forward to it because they do become your friends.
Well, yeah, and if you just go on a consistent basis, right, you start to recognize people and they start to
Yeah.
remember you too. So I mean, during COVID for me was just so depressing because I am definitely I can't just be in the house like locked in, not seeing people or just seeing people on Zoom.
Yeah.
Zoom
Yeah.
is
I am
great.
the opposite. Like COVID was actually made for me because I'm an introvert, but like but I do love, like, I remember the very first networking dinner, I was so nervous because people make me nervous. But after that, after I went once, I told myself, you have to go to the next two so that you gain that comfortability, right? Because as soon as you miss a couple, like you get that the nerves again.
Yeah, it's just like an exercise class or something, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you had one piece of advice for either a brand new entrepreneur or even just someone who's never done email marketing before, but wants to start because they listen to you and they finally want to start to listen to me, what would you tell them? What's the easiest way to get started?
I would say number one is, be authentic. Just even if your very first email, you're kind of introducing yourself and you just kind of build on from there. But let people know who you are. And, are you married? Do you have kids? Not that you have to go and through like, oh, I'm sending you a story of my life, so to speak, but every
Yeah,
kind
be
of
authentic.
email, just, speak a little bit. I'm doing this with my husband. And, oh, I went to visit, I've got a daughter. My daughter goes to university in Carleton in Ottawa. I just got back from Ottawa visiting my daughter. She's in university there. So little things like that, people can relate to you and say, oh, she's got a family. Um, but number one, be consistent. I think the worst thing that you can do is start something and then just like ghost them and then just
Mhm.
try to continue again because
Mhm.
then people are going to think that you're spammy.
Yes. And I think that like we can be our own self-fulfilling prophecy, right? One of the things that I love that you said was I committed to doing it for an entire year. A lot of people would have said, I'll commit to it for a month and I'll see what the results are. But the truth is, email, it has a compound effect, exactly what you said. You may not see any results in a month, you might not see any in two, or sometimes you don't know that email was a tipping point or a beginning part of a journey and that results did come from it.
Yeah. And you know what? And if you start your group, first of all, also continue to grow your group, right?
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
2 or
always.
3 email list. Like you can't just be sending out to the same 15 people all the time.
Yeah, it
Like you
won't produce
gotta,
results.
so whether, whatever way that you find that you're gonna grow that list, you know, uh, um, adding people to your list. And then watching the numbers as well, because you can go whatever platform that you choose, you can go and see, like for example, I see some people that open my newsletter 6, 7 times and they
Mhm.
don't respond,
hmm
you
But
know.
so you can feel good about knowing that they were interested and they're paying attention and
Yeah.
that maybe they're thinking about the future and
So, and
travel.
that's one thing that social media doesn't give you is that,
hmm
I don't know who's seeing my post or not,
hmm
but in a newsletter, I can see that, Joe or, Maria or somebody, they open my newsletter for 6, 7 times. And every single week they're reading my newsletter, even though I don't hear from them.
Yes, exactly. So that you know when Joe or Maria wants to plan a vacation, it's more than likely they're going to come to you.
More than likely,
Mhm.
100%. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so where can people find you if they want to follow your journey?
So and I should have started this with this first, but
No, I always
so
ask this at the end. It's all good.
I'm with King, the name of my agency, which I am under another host agency, so to speak. It's King Lux Travel.
Mhm.
I do have a website, so you can go to kingluxtravel.com.
Mhm.
And if you want to subscribe to my newsletter, you can go at the bottom. There is a subscribe where you can subscribe over there. And I promise you, I'm not going to spam you or anything like that.
But you will get one email a week.
You will get one email a week. And some,
And
most of the
where are
time,
you on social media? I know you've said that you're not as savvy at social media, but I think you do a great job. So where can people find
oh,
you
thank
there?
you. Thank you. So I do have a Facebook page, King Lux Travel. I have not put a lot of love into that. I do have on Instagram is also at King Lux Travel altogether. And then my personal one, which I do post a little bit more, it's Adriana P. King because last name's King. King is so popular. So my name is not quite, popular, but holy cow, there are a lot of Adriana Kings over there. So it's Adriana P. King. And you know what? And now I'm also starting to grow a, private Facebook group
Oh,
where I
awesome.
know that, a lot of people don't want to be posting just on open social media, right? So a private Facebook group. So, and you can find that on my regular page, so on my main page, which is Adriana P. King.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me today. Those were amazing, amazing tips.
Oh my God, I'm just so honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Lori.
Thank you.